All right. All right, we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to World War III Weekly, or you can just call it War for the Western World. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Andrew.
Hey, hello to the people.
Good. And today, we actually have an extra guest, and I'm super happy. I actually want this guest to come way more often. It is the charming, the intelligent Punjabi playboy. You want to tell me your name?
Thank you for the introduction, Ali. Appreciate it. Pleasure to be here. Would love to stick around.
Good. Now listen, I am super sick right now, and here's the thing: we will do these live streams through.
Yeah, my man promised to do one all the way until 2030 last time.
Not 2030, 2023.
You said 2030, homie.
Although I don't think you. Yeah, but you would never agree to that.
I never said I'm going to be on until 2030.
Exactly. I will though. I will do these weekly until 2030. Obviously, some weeks I probably am gonna take off, but no. To me, listen. This is something very important we have to say. I don't think, I'm not saying I want World War III or not want World War III, but I can bet my life that the Chinese-Taiwanese war will happen 100% from now until 2030. There's no doubt about it. Now, whether that causes World War III, that's a different discussion. But I can promise you guys, there will be a war. I mean, weren't you guys there? I literally a month before Russia invaded Ukraine, I literally said Russia's going to invade Ukraine. I got to find the post because I literally said that.
It was like 6 months before.
Oh no! A month before it, I said this year they will invade. So I was technically right because I said a year, but I'm not saying I'm a genius because my guess was a year. But yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. That was good. That was good. Forward thinking on your end. But people have been saying that since 2014. So
yeah.
Sure. Well, this is the thing. Don't you guys agree though that China, Taiwan, something will happen 100%. Either a war or some sort of unification by the end of this decade.
I think it needs to be facilitated by another Black Swan event. So Russia, Ukraine, it was kind of following the footsteps of COVID. China, Taiwan might have to follow the footsteps of another crazy recession or something like that.
Yeah,
it's
arguably already happening, actually.
Exactly. So yeah, Ali, your prediction could very well be true sooner rather than later. Hopefully,
100%. I listen again. It's not about whether you want. I want this. Or I don't want this. But either way, I will bet my life. No matter what, 100% something. In fact, I'm pretty sure even most U.S. generals are agree with this. And actually, Xi Jinping literally made it a promise that by the end of the decade, China will be whole.
Well, not only that, U.S. has also adjusted its Taiwan policy very recently, within the last few weeks, actually. And they made some changes to their. Well, I don't know if it was the actual policy, but basically the website that's dedicated to U.S. Taiwan relations, the State Department website, made a bunch of changes in the wording of how the Taiwan agreement is approached and stuff. Whether that reflects an actual change in policy is debatable.
Ooh. Well, then there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, if we're already on the topic quickly, a lot of wars, they're kind of birthed out of a level of desperation, right? Like World War II, Germany was desperate to get back on its feet, right? And even the war in the Middle East, right? Some people can say America was desperate to get their, hands back on oil and to stop all these Middle Eastern leaders from depegging the dollar from oil. But anyways, I think China, if they really want to go full-fledged invasion over Taiwan, like Russia to Ukraine, China would have to get to a point of desperation, and that could be their economy. So people say China's in a massive bubble right now, and if that bubble bursts, you might see Taiwan getting invaded.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, that's the funny part. Again, to me, there's nothing that could ever prevent this. Even if U.S. gives China $10 trillion. I know that's not going to happen, but even if U.S. says, $10 trillion, don't invade Taiwan, they'll still invade Taiwan. The Taiwanese question is one of those things in history and you guys know me, I'm a big Trump fanboy, but I don't even think like to me, a Trump presidency is just going to delay it. Like to me, if Trump wins, China will fuck with Taiwan, but as soon as Trump's gone, China's like again. To me, it's not a thing where even the Ukraine thing.
Well, there you have your answer. We just need to make Trump the supreme leader of the United States forever and ever until he dies, and then no Ukraine or no Taiwan invasion. Problem solved.
Yo, that's a good point.
Till he dies. So honestly, that might be till the end of his term.
Right? Yeah, he is like 78 or something, 76.
Yeah, if he gets elected in 24, yeah.
Well, you know what's the funny thing is, do you think someone like Tulsi Gabbard, which most of us here love her for more than one reason,
yeah,
do you think we're live, Sonny, we're live, Sonny, we're live, Sonny, we're live. Careful. Okay, so do you know most of us love her for political reasons?
The second you say Tulsi Gabbard, Sonny's like, oh yeah.
Listen, okay, I really like her politics. Okay,
I like her pee, but anyway, listen. Do we even if we all love her? Do we think she would say let's defend Taiwan, or wait? Oh, you know what? Because she's a big isolationist, and I agree with her when it comes to like most of the world. Like when it comes to not getting involved in the Middle East, I agree with her. Don't get involved. Like to be other than Israel, let the rest of them kill each other.
I mean, with how standoffish she was about Ukraine, and don't get me wrong, I agree with that policy, but it makes me think that she would be like, well, let's just give some military aid. Let's just, maybe finance the Taiwanese side of this war, whatever, but not actually get involved with boots on the ground, right? Like I could see her saying something like that.
Yeah.
See that, I would hate that. I would hate that. To me, when it comes to Ukraine, I strongly agree. To me, I don't even if we don't even give. The only thing I agree with Ukraine is loans. I hate foreign aid. Like if we're just giving it free money just to defend themselves, I think that's stupid. But when it comes to actual help, I do think we should have manpower on the ground.
But the reality is, like, why though? Like, why do you hold that? Think about it, right? Like the main reason why most of us, right, don't support the, going into Ukraine with U.S. military and fighting Russia or whatever is not even just the nuclear question. It's also the fact that NATO isn't in the EU. We have virtually no pacts with Ukraine to defend it, and they're not in NATO. All of those are true for Taiwan also.
Actually, no. I could be wrong. Unless there is a military alliance with Taiwan that I wasn't aware of, I'm pretty sure there is something.
I don't think the U.S. has any like ironclad agreements to defend Taiwan militarily. I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, no, but there is something called the Taiwan Defense Act. I can pull it up and drop a link to it.
Yeah, send it to me. Also, wait, guys, Andrew and Sonny, can you both click on the live stream on YouTube just to?
I already am. Oh,
you are? Oh, you're one of the viewers. Wait, I'm one of the viewers.
Hold on, I haven't done it yet.
I am also one of the viewers. You called it WW3 live stream. Weekly ! Week 2 !
Okay, yeah.
Should I subscribe to you?
Yeah, I got it right here.
You weren't subscribed to me?
No, what? I logged on through a new account. I logged on through a new Google.
Oh, that's good. Subscribe. Okay, good. I was making sure I can hear Sonny. Okay, can you type something? Anybody there?
In the comments or in our StreamYard?
In the live stream of the comments.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Let me see.
You got it, partner.
Okay, good. So yeah, no. The thing with the Taiwan is that, Andrew, you bring up a really good point that I didn't think of. In any ways, if there's no alliance with Taiwan, then yeah, this is pretty. Taiwan's going to be another. But I can tell you one thing though. Taiwan is literally the last line of defense in terms of America ruling the sea. Are you looking? Okay, look at this, Andrew. Do you see the stream?
Yes.
Okay, do you see what I zoomed in on?
No. No, I'm fucking with you. Yeah, I see it.
Okay. You see this little line here? I actually saw one of Altis do this, where he connected Japan, South Korea, Taiwan to Philippines, Vietnam, and he literally said, U.S. has military bases all of these countries here. I don't know if they have one in Taiwan, but I know they have one in South Korea, Japan.
U.S. I don't think the U.S. has a military base in Taiwan. We've sent a number of like elite Marine units and stuff there in order to like help train their army. But I would very much doubt it if we had a base in Taiwan. I'm almost certain we don't.
Really? Okay, that would be an interesting difference. I mean, if they do have if U.S. has a military base in Taiwan, then yeah, 100% U.S. has to get involved because you just invaded one of our bases. Right?
Sure.
Yeah, so that's easy. But anyway,
yeah, but I don't think. Wait, what is this comment? Oh, is that? Wait, is that you, Sonny?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It doesn't let. Okay, finally, let me drop a. It finally let me drop a link.
Yeah, there it is.
If I put spaces between things, yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. I'm going to copy paste Sonny's thing, but look at this. This is U.S. is allies pretty much. Now, this is just an overly simplified version. If you guys join anybody watching this in the future, if you join discord.g/free speech, you can see us having an updated version every week. But basically, the blue are U.S. allies, the red are Chinese allies. And the funny thing is, just because these are blue, it doesn't mean they have to get involved. So literally all of the Middle East, except for Israel and Turkey, all of the Middle East except for Israel and Turkey doesn't have to get involved if U.S. is in a war. The only countries that have to get involved is Israel and Turkey. The rest of them could just send it out. So don't think this means like they're super friends or something. But this is it, Andrew.
Yeah,
If China ever takes Taiwan, that is literally America's last line of control of the Eastern Ocean. What is it, like east of the Pacific Ocean? I'm sorry. So the Pacific Ocean, the U.S. literally has naval and marine bases all here, and if China is able to take one of them, they no longer need anything from you. Like U.S. could actually blockade China right now if they wanted to. Did you know that?
Of course.
Yeah.
The U.S. could blockade virtually any landlocked country in the entire world if they wanted to.
Except no, they can't blockade South Africa or any country that's part of South of Africa. If you're looking at my map, like U.S. U.S. has bases in Australia, Brazil, but Southern Africa is free.
No, what I'm saying is the U.S. Navy is powerful enough to virtually blockade any country that has any seafront real estate whatsoever.
Oh, sure. Except I don't think they could do anything to South Africa, though.
Not that they would want to, but they absolutely could blockade the entire country if they so chose to. That's well within the logistical bounds of the U.S. Navy.
Okay, no. Yes, but what I was trying to say is that when it comes to Taiwan, U.S. could realistically have a line here from Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, all this, and say, yeah, no country is allowed to cross this line. They could do that because it's not even a war thing. But if China ever takes this, in terms of international law, there is no justification for U.S. blockading them. You get what I'm trying to say?
Sure, but international law doesn't really matter much when there's like an all-out war. In fact, like countries do things that go against international law all the time.
Well, do they? I mean, has Russia any war
like
crimes?
when China like declared all those Pacific Islands part of China, that was technically against international law, but nothing happened.
Then we are fucked. Sonny,
I mean, stuff happens all the time that international law protests against, but it makes no difference. Like the international tribunal that makes international law has like virtually no power to actually like impose any kind of like anything that would affect a superpower country from doing what they wanted, basically.
Yeah. Well, then we're ass fucked. We're ass fucked. Okay. Do you see what Seti just said? I put it in the actual.
Yeah, I've been looking at it.
Passed the House on 1979, passed the Senate. I said, wait, 1979 was Iran's revolution. That's funny. Iran's revolution was February of 1979. Fun fact. Okay.
Yeah, the Taiwan Relations Act does not guarantee the U.S. will intervene militarily if the PRC, which is the Republic of China, basically attacks or invades Taiwan. Nor does it relinquish it, as its primary purpose is to ensure the U.S. Taiwan policy will not be changed unilaterally by the president, and ensure any decision to defend Taiwan will be made with the consent. Basically, it's saying no, it doesn't make any defense guarantees of Taiwan.
But it doesn't relinquish any defense guarantees.
But it doesn't relinquish any either. The point of it was to say, okay, well, this policy, right, doesn't want to be changed by, like, if one administration comes in and decides this is a shit policy, they can't change it, and then another administration could come in and reenact it, right? That's basically what that's saying.
So basically, I'm not saying this is it, but so basically, hypothetically, if China were to implement a president in America, so let's say China, just hypothetically, they forcibly made somebody the president of America, and that president decides not to help Taiwan. This says that Congress doesn't have to listen to that president; they can still defend Taiwan, whether that president likes it or not. Right?
No, wait, hold on. Will not be changed unilaterally by the president. Ensure any decision to defend by it ensures that an actual act of war has to be declared by Congress in order to defend the country. Yeah, that's correct.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Again, hypothetically, if China were somehow, first of all, I think people massively underestimate how hard it is to hack an election. Trust me, okay? The U.S. system is very fair. I'm sure, I guess, some small stuff can happen, but a large-scale cheating is almost impossible. That's why, like, anyone that thought the Russians cheated back in 2016 was also stupid. But I'm saying, like, let's say hypothetically, somehow China was able to hack an election. This says that even if the president says no, because the president is in charge of the military, right? No matter what, the president has all the power over the military. So this bill is saying that the president can't decide, right?
Not unilaterally so, no.
Yeah, even though the president...
This is like virtually true for all declarations of war, basically, right?
No, wrong. No. The president can technically declare war on any country whenever they want, except for this one.
You know what? If we're talking about presidents, okay. So another thing that pushed Putin to actually go into Ukraine was that before Zelensky, every Ukrainian PM was actually marching to Putin's tune. So whatever Putin said, they did. Zelensky was the first one that's like, hey, listen, my country, my rules, Putin, please leave me alone. Okay. And that pissed Putin off. So his last resort was to invade. Now, if the leader of Taiwan currently, when Xi Jinping says jump and the leader of Taiwan says how high, if all of a sudden that stops, that could be another catalyst for invasion. So, I mean, as like China doesn't necessarily have to go to war. As long as they can keep someone in Taiwanese government that does their bidding for them, there's no reason to invade Taiwan.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Seti, but I think no matter what, there will be a war. Like, even if there's somebody that's literally even if it's a literal Chinese puppet, the puppet will just say, you know what, guys, if it's a Chinese puppet, they'll say, you know what, guys, let's just unify with China. Come on, guys, let's unify. Like, they'll just do that. Like,
hey, Ali, can we take like a 5-minute break or something and then get into the actual video we had planned? Because this is kind of like our World War III segment.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I was about to say, are we still doing the reaction or what?
I was going to say, well, now we've actually spent a long time discussing this.
I mean, if we go over a little bit over an hour, it's not a big problem.
Okay, you know what?
I suspect we're gonna get 10 minutes into the video with all the analysis.
I I agree. I don't think we'll do, but fine, fine. Usually, guys, we don't do this, but don't forget, every week live stream, no matter what, we'll discuss anything that is related to.
Just can we take a 5-minute break because I gotta take a piss.
Yeah, go.
Yes, urinate. Okay. Also, why does it say there's one watching? Am I the only one that's watching right now?
I'm on the stream.
That's the weird part because I'm watching too. This is weird.
Here, let me refresh it.
I shall do the same.
Okay. By the way, guys, is my voice quiet?
No.
No.
All right.
How about you go refresh your bladder?
Yeah, I'm about to. Just Ali, did you pause the stream or because it says it's still live, right?
Yeah, I'm still streaming. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this in the future, we will not only discuss world events, but we're also going to discuss things like this, which is just debates that are happening in debates that you could argue it affects the Western world. Now, listen, personally, I didn't want to do this, but I wanted to do something that Andrew wanted, and that's what Andrew wanted. Personally, to me, like, what if Altis is a moderate? He's not really right wing or left wing. I mean, if I had to choose, I would say, what if Altis is more center left? But someone like Vosh is extreme left. So I just don't like these. But sure, we can watch it and critique them if we want.
You know what? Let's not even attack it from like a right winger versus a left winger, because the topic of this debate is what, foreign policy or what?
I actually have no idea. Andrew wanted it, so I'm like, what? We'll watch half. Exactly. We'll watch half of this week, and we'll watch the other half next week.
Okay, if the topic is foreign policy, is just someone that's more of a globalist versus someone that's more of a particularist or an isolationist, if you will.
Oh, I like how you said that. But actually, the funny thing with me is that I feel like both Vosh and Varadvaltis are more leaning towards globalism. Because
Really?
neither of them are isolation. Yeah, both of them prefer. But like, you could argue that what if Altis is more of a particular globalist? Like, hey, let's have globalism with only certain countries. Well, Vosh, I think he's dumb enough to think we can all get along.
Okay, so a particularist versus a universalist.
To me, it's like, you think if we open the borders between literally, let's think, what's the gayest country? France. And
Italy.
Okay, sure. Like, you think we could open the borders between Italy and like some heavy religious country like Pakistan? And you don't think that's gonna? I mean, there's already conflicts. Like,
let's use a better example. Imagine opening the borders between Iran and Israel. That's going to be a catalyst for war, definitely.
I mean, that is a war, but it's not for the same reason. Like, at least Iran and Israel have some sort of a tiny bit of cultural similarities, believe it or not. But like Pakistan and France, no. Like, there's a reason why crimes against Jews and gays have massively spiked in Europe. It's because they literally opened their borders to a bunch of Muslims in North Africa.
Okay, I guess Andrew's back, but we should definitely react to a video of a guy burning the Quran, and YouTube's not going to strike the stream because the video's on YouTube, and it's really funny. In Sweden there's a Danish politician burning the Quran. We should watch it together.
But to me, again, that's the funny thing. That should be their free speech. Like, people literally burn so many things in front of like Christians all the time, and I haven't seen a Christian.
No. We're talking about cultural clash, right? And it's
yeah.
This is what happens.
All right, I'm back. We can do this shit.
No, that's the number one reason. Is people understand there is massive cultural differences. And the funny thing is, it's not just Islam versus Western. It's also like Chinese and Muslims can't even get along. And they're technically allies.
Well, yeah, Muslims can't get along with Hindus, Jews, the West, the Chinese.
You're right, exactly. But just so you know, like, I don't want to focus on Muslims because I don't think the extreme Chinese communists, I don't think they can get along with Indians actually. Even though technically they're both the giants of Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, the Muslims don't have the best track record, but honestly, in all fairness, neither do the Chinese. So
yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
the funny thing is, like us, we don't have. I mean, I think it's almost extremely rare for someone to be like, "God damn, I hate them Canadians coming to my country." Like no Americans ever said it. Like it may be like one in the history of the universe. But like,
yeah, because no Canadians ever felt the need to go to America.
That's not right. My point is like,
America, but yeah.
But those are like Western countries, especially Anglophone countries, they get along so well and people think, oh, well, now that these guys get along, that must mean the world will get along. No, the English and the French don't get along, and they're right next to each other, and they don't get along.
And
Anyway, sorry,
in some instances, they live in the same country. Cough, cough, Canada. So,
point. Let's watch.
That. And I had a couple of, I don't know, questions, concerns that I wanted to talk about with you.
Okay.
So
Again, Andrew missed it, but just so you know, I believe Regier is more of a center leftist, and Bosch is extreme leftist. So we all know he's gonna win.
Let's just watch and then talk about the content. Just play it.
I will, but I put the video at 1.25 seconds, and we might continue this video next week.
I understand you mostly do historical content, which is not my field of expertise. I can't comment on it that substantively. But
sorry, I have a comment right now. His first thing, God, I hate Vosh because again he lies so much. I don't care how smart or dumb he is, he lies. The first thing he says at the beginning of the debate is, "Oh, I don't know much about history." That's literally just a tactic, just to make him look good for the rest of the debate. If he says something stupid when it comes to history.
Okay,
Like,
let's put in a rule. You have to let at least 2 minutes of video play before commentating.
Unless there's something important.
Fine, 30 seconds, okay? 30 seconds is a good time.
Oh, God, wow.
I do know that you've gotten some pushback for what you've put in those videos. And looking at your social justice video, I think I might understand a common trend. The main issue being, at least with regard to the social justice video, it feels like you came into that with a fairly strong pre-existing ideological bias, and all the information you had on all the many subjects that you touched on in that video, you pulled them together to narrativize them into a story consistent with your pre-existing beliefs. You know, like you looked up at the stars and you wanted to see a dinosaur, and it didn't really matter what the stars looked like. You had to find the dinosaur in the constellation. You know what I mean?
Sorry guys, I just want to make sure you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, sorry, no. StreamYard just said like it's this. Okay.
So there were like a bunch of pieces of info there that I think were contradictory or didn't fit together that well. And it gave me the impression altogether that you were inconsistently reactionary in ways I wanted to talk about.
It's such a weird term to use.
As I've studied history,
This is something the far left uses all the time. The word reactionary. Like
Yeah.
They use it all the time. That's why.
Well, the funny thing is, in the Chinese Communist Revolution, they called anybody that like preached Western shit reactionary, right? So like,
yep.
It's kind of telling, yeah.
Yep, exactly. And that's why, again, I don't want you just to think I hate leftists, because I think Destiny's actually a smart guy. I just think Wash is an idiot. That's it.
being fair and objective isn't giving 50-50 to both sides. Being fair and objective is looking for the truth. And
ooh! Did you just hear that? Did you just hear that?
Based.
That is the most. Okay, seriously. I don't agree with everything what I called it. Rudgear, whatever his name is. Andrew, can you pronounce his name?
Weird.
Okay, Rudgear.
No, you're still saying it wrong, bro.
Okay, Ali, what was your premise?
Just so you know, okay, he says being objective doesn't mean you're 50-50. It's just looking for the truth. Bars. That's like, because everybody thinks like, oh, this comedian, he made fun of Trump 5 times, and he made fun.
Bro, if you're gonna pause it every time he says bars, like you're gonna you might as well not watch the video, because every word out of his mouth is bars, bro.
It's not. It's actually not. In the past 5 minutes, I've only seen one bar, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
seeing where the truth leads you. And across history, you see periods of fanaticism. And we see a lot of the prerequisites for periods of fanaticism that exist today. And across history, you saw the French Revolution, you saw the...
I'm just going to rewind it because he
Thank
speaks
you.
fast enough. Yeah, he speaks
I was going to
fast
say,
enough.
this was some Ben Shapiro level shit.
Seeing where the truth leads you. And across history, you see periods of fanaticism. And we see a lot of the prerequisites for periods of fanaticism that exist today. And across history, you saw the French Revolution, you saw the religious fanaticism like the Puritans of the 17th century, you saw the Spanish Inquisition. Before that, you saw the flagellants after the Black Death, or guys that would basically whip themselves after the Black Death because they felt guilt, that they felt immense survivor's guilt they were still alive. And before that, you had all sorts of things across the ancient world and peasant rebellions in the Middle Ages as well. And the common thread between all of these is that when times get tough like they are now, where basically average income has gone down, a lot of people live really hard lives in a lot of ways. And under those conditions, people get radicalized. And I think social justice is that radical movement. And I try to build my work for posterity. And because of that, I cannot stand aside when social justice, I think, is a radical movement, and to give it an objective opinion would be to state thus. And so my argument going into it was that social justice is radical, which I will prove as this debate goes along. But at the same time, I just wanted to make something that posterity would be able to look back upon, where every single era of history, you have the people who would basically say, we need to give both sides argument. And the truth is complicated. And because of that, you see all sorts of, no one side can hold the truth, because no single worldview is capable of encapsulating it. But like before World War II, you saw people who thought that starting the war was not a good idea. Before World War I, you saw people who thought that war would never happen. And in every era of history, conventional opinion was wrong. And I want to look for when conventional opinion is wrong.
So the term radical doesn't really have a consistent definition.
Sorry, I'm going to go back because I dropped my head.
So the term radical doesn't really have a consistent definition, but the way you use it suggests to me that you think it has a negative bent.
It does.
You know, if you're going to argue that social unrest is often caused by inequality or tumult, then I would agree with that. You could go back to the suffrage movement, the civil rights movement. You could go back to the abolitionist movement or the Revolutionary War. You could go back as far as you wanted. And yeah, generally when things are a little bit less steady.
Yeah, this is so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous because so you guys haven't seen the video, but in his response video that prompted this debate, Vosh used way stronger language than that. And and now that he's talking to him, you know, he's like, oh, now I gotta softball it, you know, I gotta like,
yep.
He like vehemently agreed actually with what if all his just said, right? With what Rudyard just said. And in his response video, he's like, yeah, that's completely accurate. And now that he's in the debate, he's like, oh, I'm just gonna softball it and just make it kind of sound like you're only partially correct, you know, and like, well, and latch onto this like definition. Well, you didn't define radicalism, so like, what are you even talking about? Like, this is just such an disingenuous like debate tactic.
Oh, dude, 100%. And that's my biggest issue with these people, is that they are not honest and consistent. So, and like, to me, it's like, listen, even if you have the greatest ideas in the world, why can't you stand by them? And that's why, like, yo, if someone like Vosh is ever a leader of any movement, we are fucked. Like, wars, famine, genocide, anything.
Well, I don't think it matters if he's the leader of the movement, as long as he's not the leader of a movement that actually holds any worth in a system.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
To tend to commit harder to more radical ideas. I guess the problem that I have with the framing in your video is that that's a good thing, at least in the context of the movements we're discussing now. I don't care about 50-50 representation for any given talking point, by the way. I only care about what's right.
Yes, you do.
Whoa, yeah.
Absolutely what you care about.
A leftist that says they don't care about representation. Okay. 50-50.
You very specifically designate some types of social justice in your YouTube video as exempt from your criticism. Basically, the civil rights movement and back before that.
Yeah, this is where the conversation gets really interesting.
For a second, please.
Sure.
In your video, you said the civil rights movement and the abolitionist movement were descendants of are the ancestors of social justice, which is not true. Social justice is an entirely different historic chain that you see start in the 40s to the 90s, basically, the post-war period. And that's a long period, but it did take a bit of time to evolve. So
I'd like to challenge you on that.
Sorry?
How?
Wait, sorry. Yeah, sorry, what'd you say?
No, I was saying this is where it gets really interesting, and you're gonna kind of have to keep up because obviously, what if all his talks a lot faster, so he sounds really weird in the 1.25. But
no. Just so you know, I actually have a small piece of paper with me. I'm gonna take notes because this is genuinely an interesting topic. Is MLK a social justice warrior? I personally don't think so. I think he's more.
No. They get into it. They get into this.
Okay,
they get into this like really deeply. Actually, this is like the best part of the debate. But
by the way, yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
But no, like, I mean, I was just saying, like, this is you can play the video, but this is just where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's why I said, yeah, I'm gonna play this and let's see what happens. But
So,
just
by
so
the
you
way,
guys know,
quickly. Vosh has an entire video explaining the concept of racism by outcome. What that means is if the outcome of something isn't 50-50 is racism. But yeah. So
yeah,
correct. Yeah. Like I was
So-
about to say, half of his videos are about cultural appropriation and like how representation is important in society. So to say that he doesn't care about representation is so ridiculous.
Yeah, no, this is my problem with it. This debate is not a debate between right and left. This debate is between a center leftist and a far leftist. Because I promise you, what if Altis, his views on a lot of big social issues are very left wing. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
It's literally someone that believes in equality by outcome versus someone that believes in equality by opportunity.
Amen. Amen. And,
I mean,
but the funny thing is,
but
both of these are still like the concept of equality is a left wing idea. And I don't mean that. I don't mean the right wingers hate equality, but I do think
equality is not a bad thing. Yeah,
exactly. No, right wingers usually fight for freedom. Left wing fights for equality. So this is the whole basis of the left versus right.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that even has to be enunciated is because the left has gone so far off the fucking deep end that like that now the right has identified with equality of opportunity, which originally was a Democrat thing.
Exactly. Yes, and that's why I think like I'm sorry to pause for so long. We could watch the MLK. I would kind of argue MLK was kind of a center leftist, actually. Although today he would be considered a Trump. I mean, look at his daughters and most of MLK's kids support Trump. But I'm just saying, like back then, I would say, yeah, that was kind of a left.
No. They get into MLK really deeply if you watch the video.
All right, listen.
The civil rights movement was in the 60s, of
finish.
course, so that would fit within that time range.
The civil rights period, it was entirely different groups of people. When you look at the logic of the modern social justice movement, it takes ideas that were invented by former Marxists in the post-war period and two broad groups, the Frankfurt School and French philosophers. And for example, the idea that gender can be separated from sex, that's an idea that hasn't existed for any other period of history except with Simone de Beauvoir starting in the early 50s. And then that idea was taken up by other philosophers like Judith Butler, like
A little bit, just so you guys know, Simone de Beauvoir. Actually, do you guys know what her views on age of consent is?
No.
She doesn't believe it should exist.
Interesting.
So yeah,
like Foucault. And so the idea that gender is separate from sex, again, postmodernist idea from that period, from academia. Please
this is what
finish.
I mean. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to just go ahead and say a bunch of wrong things.
Yeah, no, but I'd like to.
First of all,
you cannot construct my argument properly unless you hear it.
Bro, hold on, pause it.
So far, the construction is faulty.
What?
Oh my god, bro.
Yeah, failed. This is what this guy is. Failed attempts to gaslight. But anyway.
Yeah, seriously. What a fucking arrogant prick, dude.
Dude, and what scares me is that he has like 400,000 subscribers. And let's say out of those 400,000, let's say 200,000 are fake. That means there's 200,000 people that actually like this guy. That's scary to me.
What a fucking arrogant piece of shit.
Can I play?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, Vosh says some really like dumb shit coming up next that we'll comment on. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is why they needed a moderator at the debate. This is one of the things I want to do at the server. We should moderate debates.
Creed is cracking. The civil rights movement was informed by Marxist ideas. Marx was around like it absolutely was.
No,
the basis of critical theory, the idea that you should analyze. Well, don't get a dig.
And one thing I can just counter his point by saying MLK specifically said he is strongly anti-Marxism.
Yes.
Dude, this guy needs to cite his sources. You can't just say, "Oh, civil rights was a Marxist." Oh my goodness, cite your sources.
No, okay, no. I can actually tell you why he says this. It's because he is going with the basic definition. Anyone fighting for equality is a Marxist. Anybody ever. Like you believe
no,
Hindus.
There's been a lot of revisionist history specifically on this topic done by the left to make it look like. Okay, I'll tell you what the reality was. The reality was that, yes, there was some uneasy alliances at the time of the civil rights movement between like the Marxist people and the people that actually just cared about like equality of opportunity, right?
Also, dude, like social justice and the fight for equality existed before Marx did. The religion of Sikhism was essentially to get away from the caste system in Hinduism, and that existed before Marx did. So,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's very true. But I was gonna say is, there was a bunch of uneasy alliances, but the reality is that there was a push for social justice in its modern form today, even back then. Like he brought up Simone de Beauvoir, for example, and she was writing in the early 50s, early to mid 50s. So like very early in the civil rights movement, there was a push for like what's, you know, modern social ideology today, right? And the reality is that these people lost. Like the Marxists lost the social justice or lost the civil rights movement, and now it's just the same people. It's the same, you know, people in academia coming around today and saying the same things that they were back in 1950, 1960. The reality is that it's just like more widely accepted now because they lost in the civil rights movement, and hopefully they lose today, but we'll see.
Oh, we shall see. But I was just gonna, while he was talking, I was showing everybody the fact that there was a progressive party, a socialist party, a democratic party, and a republican party. There were 4 different parties. If those guys agreed with each other, that they would have. If the socialists agreed with them, they would have made a different party.
Even already, it certainly was. Marxist social analysis has been influencing philosophers and activists for well over a century, and the conceptualization of gender and sex being, as you say it, uniform until the past 50 years is completely ahistorical. There are entire modern civilizations that have had 3rd genders, clearly not 3 sexes.
No, they're not. That is not true.
That's just simply
no. The funny thing is, wait, no. When he says whether that's, I'm not even gonna. Let's actually give a benefit of that. Let's say it is true, but what's called? Rudger never said that there has never been 3 genders. He just said there has never been anyone that separates sex and gender. That's all he said, right. And he's right. There's never been someone that separates sex and gender.
Well, and I'll tell you why he's right. And Bosch is disagreeing with him on that, but Bosch is wrong, and I'll tell you why. It's because the societies that he's talking about, mainly like some sub-Saharan African tribes and societies like that, or there's examples of this. I'm not like super familiar with the societies themselves, but I did a little bit of research, and like in these societies that he's talking about, basically, if you were an effeminate man or a masculine woman, then basically you were a social outcast, right? And the society stripped you of your sex, like you were considered subhuman. That's why it was a 3rd sex wasn't like some inclusion, like progressive 3rd gender thing. Okay. This was like, you are subhuman. You are a social outcast. You don't even get the simple, like human, respect of having a sex. Okay. It was actually progressive in every sense of the word. It was not, it was
the actual, it was the subtraction of your sexual identity as opposed to addition of what,
right.
Yeah. Okay.
So what Bosch is saying is completely off base.
Not true. But even if there were conceptualizations of modern social justice, which are a product of postmodernism exclusively, I wouldn't have an issue with that. You know, you'd have to demonstrate the harm done by those ideas.
Oh, okay. So wait a minute. He ends up disagreeing with Rudger. He just said, so even if you're right, I don't have a problem with that. Okay. Well then, what the hell was the point of you saying you're wrong? Because he literally just said, even if social justice didn't, even if MLK, for example, was it a social justice warrior? I don't have a problem with that. Am I wrong? That's literally what he just said.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, he said like, I would agree with that, provided that you don't have the evidence to prove that it's causing some kind of like social problem, right?
Give me a hot second, because I'm going to reply to each of those. So for the first of them, the social justice movement didn't have ties. Sorry. Freudian slip, and I'm sure you wanted me to have. The civil rights movement didn't have Marxist ties because that was something that the FBI explicitly looked for. And people really, really tried to attach a Marxist label onto Martin Luther King, but he kept very clear from it. And
he wasn't a Marxist.
Yeah, and much of the movement led by him did not have a lot of Marxist philosophy, because if they found...
Wait, right there, he agrees. Like, see, this is why they need a moderator, because a moderator... Okay, wait, so you disagree he wasn't a Marxist. Okay, well, the first 10 minutes of this conversation is now void.
Well, in fairness to Vosh, he didn't say that MLK was a Marxist. He just said that MLK's movement and that the
ancestry. It was the ancestry of the...
Well, it was like the history of the movement, whether it had Marxist principles behind it or not, was the debate, not whether MLK was a Marxist.
Yeah, but that's kind of like saying like modern day Iran supports Yahtzee Germany because they want to wipe out Israel. But that's not their same reason. Modern day Iran just wants to convert all the Jews to Muslims. They don't want to kill all the Jews. So like that's a I agree. I think it's disingenuous, but like
The argument wasn't really about whether, like, I mean, Vosh even saying that is really just stupid because that wasn't even what the discussion was about.
Yeah, there you go. Sadi said it best at the beginning. He's a gaslighter.
A Marxist attachment to it, then the federal government would have basically just federal government and racists in American society at the time would have just used it to pillory the movement. And so
I actually didn't think of that. Sorry to pause, but you're right. I just thought of it. If MLK was an actual Marxist, the FBI would have secretly killed him, wouldn't they? Like,
oh
they
yeah, yeah.
This was in the middle of the Cold War. Like anyone could say they're superior. Yeah.
And the argument that I've heard Vosh make, and that he made in his response video to Rudyard's original video, was that, okay, well, he wasn't a Marxist, but he had socialist tendencies, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, well, some of that may be true in regards to like his social spending and like community sort of vision. He was not a socialist. He was not even close to an identified socialist. In fact, he fought against socialism. And do you think the U.S. government in 1960, you know,
would have allowed
gave a fuck whether you're a socialist or a communist? You're a fucking, like, if you're anything close to that, you're a goddamn commie, and they're gonna pillory you and get rid of you and send you to jail. Like, the U.S. government isn't gonna make a distinction like that, you know?
Yeah, no, good point. I actually wasn't even thinking of that because, like, today, I'm 100% sure today, if someone's a Marxist, the U.S. government's not going to secretly kill you. But back then, 100%.
Oh yeah.
It explicitly kept away, and it didn't really come from Marxist roots because if you look at the liberation movements of that period of history, they came mostly from a liberal background. So full male suffrage, that was something that started in the early 19th century and progressed as male suffrage is tied to the amount of your male population that fought in the military. And so that came through liberals across the 19th century, and it continued into the early 20th century. With the suffragette movement, suffragettes were mostly upper middle class women who, again, came from a liberal mindset. And when you look at liberalism, it's the idea that all people have equal worth, and the equal worth under the law. And liberalism is a philosophy that's in many ways derived from Christianity, and thus under the objective legal eye of God. And that's just not the philosophy.
Yeah, pause it really quick. So
wait,
this is
Rutger is an atheist, but he's right, by the way. Like, I'm not a Christian either, but he turned himself right, and Rutger is an atheist, and he agrees that it was this.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense when you think about it. I mean, MLK was literally a reverend, right?
Yep.
Primarily, this was a Christian movement, and the majority of America at the time was Christian, right? So, like, and in fact, during the civil rights era, there was a huge push in Christian communities to be anti-Marxist. Like, there were all kinds of like public programs done through churches and community centers that was like the fight against Marxism and communism.
Yeah, and actually, let me just Sadi doesn't mind if I shit on India, but like right now,
I invite it.
Like right now, think about this: every single country that is, for example, has gay marriage is pretty much a Judeo-Christian country, and India is the weird exception to this because some of India's provinces, like gays can have common law, but some of them, like, gays are forbidden. So this is the weird part: is the only country that's not a Christian country.
Oh, so it actually made it a states' right issue. Nice.
Okay, yeah, see that's fucked up, and that's a whole different debate. But I'm saying, like, every single, like, right now, every single country that was originated as a Christian country is right now pro LGBT rights. This includes Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan, because they are technically, I feel like, they got more influence from Christianity, right? There's a lot of missionaries sent there, right? Am I wrong on
for the most
East
part,
Asian countries? Yeah, unless someone proves that the East Asian countries, they are pro LGBT, like, gay rights based on Japanese values. I don't think there's whatever.
Civil rights movement was infiltrated by Marxists.
Hold on. I have to interject here. I never said the civil rights movement was infiltrated by Marxists. I said that his ideas and the ideas of the civil rights movement were influenced by Marxist philosophy, which they were. Liberal philosophers, liberal political thinkers were influenced by what Marx wrote, because Marx was, well, he wasn't the only person who did this, certainly, but it's been mostly attributed to him, the ideas inherent to critical theory. Now, critical theory these days is taught to liberals and by liberals in a bunch of departments. It's not this, like, communist exclusive thing. They were pilloried as Marxist influenced the civil rights movement. So, you know, regardless of the
this is another lie and misconception that's been put forward by the left. This is also untrue. Critical theory and critical race theory are are literally Marxist. Like they're how like a really telling example of this, okay, is how rights are looked at by Marx and how rights are looked at by critical race theory. They're both looked at in it is as negative rights, essentially. Like Marx views rights essentially kind of the same way that critical race theory does. What Marx said about rights was that, and Marx was generally anti like freedoms, anti rights, because he believed that they all stemmed from private property, the foundational right, private property, and as well as free speech, and that those two rights specifically, especially private property, stopped the sort of, or made it hard to have communal living, communities, societies, like co-op, that sort of thing, right? Which is what Marx was all about. And that's the exact same line of reasoning that critical theory gives. So to say that like critical theory isn't Marxist is completely inaccurate.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I just want to also add that the concept of hate speech only came, like, I think it started in either Maoist China or Soviet Union. Like, obviously, the extreme right-wingers, they killed political dissidents. So I'm not saying they were pro-free speech. But the concept of hate speech, no. The Yahtzees would have said, like, oh, that's Jew speech, so we got to kill them. It was like, again, this hate speech is I would say it's a Marxist idea as well. So neither support.
That was certainly something attributed to them.
I mean, realistically, everyone is influenced by every other philosopher. And give me a second to get back to some of the earlier points you made. But I mean, I'm influenced by Marx. I'm influenced by Marx. I'm also influenced by Zoroaster, Muhammad, by Foucault, and these ideas all mix together. And
base, he's influenced by Muhammad. Yo. What if all this is Muslim? Confirm.
See a trajectory from. I don't think it's useful to parcel out what percentage of each philosophy. And yes, you could find some Marxist influence in the civil rights movement, but I don't think it's useful. And a point you made in
Whoa! He just conceded. Well, he said some. He said there are some Marxist influence in the civil rights movement.
And he's right. That's why I said there was an uneasy alliance between these people and the people that basically just were like, okay, we should stop persecuting blacks, pretty much, right? Like normal people. And the reality is that the distinguishing factor here, okay, is not whether or not there was some Marxist influence, because yes, there surely was some, okay, but the reality is that these Marxists and the social agenda they wanted to push, that's very evident by, like I said, people like Simone de Beauvoir's writing, for example, in the early 50s, what they wanted to push failed, was not accepted, right? Like there was an uneasy alliance because yes, like they also wanted people to stop persecuting blacks. That's true. But, and they wanted to end segregation and Jim Crow and all this stuff. Right. So there was this uneasy alliance, but the reality is that they did not get what they wanted and they lost the sort of like social public opinion battle that was going on at the time.
Yeah. Okay. But let me ask you this though. Would you say the U.S. Constitution and the Communist Manifesto, both of them have a thing that says, workers must always have the right to arms. Although the U.S. Constitution says, the people, like what is the Second Amendment? Like people shall not infringe or something like that? What is the Second Amendment?
The people's rights to bear arms shall not be infringed.
Right. And then didn't the Communist Manifesto say workers' rights or workers should always be armed or something like that? Similar?
No, not at all. The Communist Manifesto says the workers' rights to the means of production shouldn't be infringed.
No. But I promise you, there's a part of the Communist Manifesto that does say that the workers should have arms as well.
I mean, maybe it's been several years since I've read the Communist Manifesto. It's possible that's in there, but
sure. But my point is, just because both of these agree on this doesn't mean they influenced each other. Am I wrong? Because some people say no. That means they. I don't think so. I don't think. I'm 99% sure that, like, for example, Abraham Lincoln rejected letters that Marx sent him.
That I don't know about, but I mean, is there like some crossover? Of course, like it's what Rudyard said, right? Like all ideologies influence, like all prominent ideologies influence other prominent ideologies in one way or another, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that that one ideology is the foundation for another one.
Okay, we got to explore this later.
your rebuttal to my video was that the abolitionist movement is part of the same trajectory as modern social justice,
Ooh.
which just has no basis.
No.
The abolitionists were built out of the radical Republican agenda, which was a subset of the Republican Party that existed mostly in the upper tier of northern states.
Okay, first of all, what he just said, super smart. The whole idea of like party switch, that's not true. Like there is a subset of Republicans that were abolitionists, but not all Republicans were abolitionists.
Well, and that's the thing is abolition at the time was a radical ideology. This is why in the very beginning of the debate, he says not all radicalism is bad. And it's true. Not all radicalism is bad.
I mean, that's true. Because if I say, hey, you should be allowed to misgender people, even if it makes them cry, that's considered radical. But it's technically, I would say it's not radical, but whatever.
And their platforms were, in fact, trying to settle the Western frontier. They were very pro-capitalist, very.
This is an obfuscation.
They
so wait,
they were.
Just so you know, Could told me the same thing. The Republicans were extremely pro-capitalist. In fact, the South actually had a lot of sympathizers.
Certain Republicans were. He's talking about a subsect of the general Republican Party. Not all Republicans were absolutionists.
No. I'm not talking about capitalism. Like the Republican Party, every single member of the Republican Congress was pro-capitalism. In fact, the South was the one that actually sympathized with socialism and Marx. I actually was shocked to hear that until Could sent me an actual official letter that the South was super pro-socialism, and I was so surprised that was true. I didn't know Marx was alive at that time. Did you guys know that the South supported Marx? Did you guys know that? Like Marx was like.
I mean, it's not surprising to me considering that like. Marx, if he'd lived before, slavery was outlawed, probably would have owned slaves.
Oh, 100%. Bars. And
remarkably imperialist party.
What I said,
wait. Black.
Wait. Republicans were imperialists? Is that what he said?
Trying to settle the Western frontier. They were very pro-capitalist.
This is an obfuscation.
They were
what I said,
remarkably imperialist party.
What I said, wait.
Pro-black.
This is a misinterpretation again. I did not say.
Interesting. We got to just discuss that later. He said the Republicans were pro-imperialist, pro-capitalist, pro-black. That's an interesting. Okay. Settling the West is considered imperialism.
Well, at the time it was, yeah, because these lands in the Western United States weren't part of the United States at the time.
Okay, I disagree. We can talk about that later, but I disagree with Red Gear.
These were the same.
You literally
movements.
said that in my video.
No. I said that it was a continuation of the same historical trend. Now, obviously, if you say something is the continuation of the same historical trend and then go back 150 years, you will find that, in fact, earlier groups do have some different values. But the underlying trend is the acknowledgement of racial inequality and the desire to address it through civic, cultural, and legal systems to amend these problems both in representation and in economic outcomes. In that respect, that movement, the abolitionist movement, is identical to what we have today in many respects. Obviously, 150 years have passed. Settling the Western frontier isn't a cavalier idea in modern society.
Not at all. That's
what it's all about, really, equality. And you can trace that back to the Enlightenment and further beyond if you really wanted to.
I mean, realistically, the idea of racial equality and using legality to address racial problems, it's in many cultures. You see it in Islam. You see it in Christian societies in the Middle Ages. And if you can't draw a trajectory through the people themselves, you're not going to find a realistic continuity. What happened to those radical Republicans?
The abolitionists that we think of, W.E.B. Du Bois or Frederick Douglass.
Middle-class people in the upper Midwest and New England. Meanwhile, the people who led the civil rights movement, they were predominantly Northeastern intellectuals who voted Democrat in the 1930s, as well as Jews who immigrated to Europe from 1900. I once went through a list of I'm writing a cultural history of America.
That doesn't have anything to do with the ideological
trajectories of American ethnography.
But that has nothing to do with the ideological through line.
You do not find.
Yes, it does.
It's a totally different demographic. Where
wait, we're not talking about demographics. Wait. What
intellectuals that are the
we're not talking about
demographics. Absolutely do matter when trying to trace the through line and the origins of ideologies. Of course, it matters.
No. Exactly. No, because the funny thing is, to the left, they're like, oh, these are a bunch of white people. No, because if you notice, these white people, different groups of them. Like the white people that were more Christian or Jew, they were more pro-equality than the white people that were Slavic, I guess.
I mean, what do you think, Sonny? I haven't heard. Is Sonny even here?
Yeah, I'm here. To be honest, it's because this is my first time hearing What If All Hits speak. I'm really interested in kind of seeing how he puts things together. But
okay.
You guys have your own analysis, so.
Yeah, no. And, okay, just so you guys know.
We'll try to play the video a little more then so you can hear it.
Yeah, to be honest, Vosh, I've heard Vosh a million times. This What If All His guy. I've never heard him before. So
okay, wait. Let me actually just say, guys. Okay, we're gonna stop the video right now. this is what we're gonna do. The live stream will end right now because we're in 10 seconds. We're gonna reach an hour, but I'm gonna just continue this video, but we're just gonna record it as a regular video instead of a live stream. We'll do it right today. Okay?
If you want.
Sunny, are you done?
Yeah. Because for me, I'm trying to piece together. Okay, what exactly is it that they're debating? And so I need to know what point, what if all his is trying to make. He looks like the type of motherfucker to get emotional when seeing a Star Wars movie.
Anyway, guys, okay, we're gonna go to our Discord server and we're just gonna record the rest of the video on Discord and we'll comment there. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, every week 5:30 or 6:30 Sundays we will have a live stream on anything that's war for the Western world or World War III. It'd be interesting if in the next 5 years a World War III does start and we're doing live streams every week on this. Andrew, have anything to say?
No, I don't. But keep it real, I guess, for whoever's watching this.
Yeah.
Probably not very many people.
Keep it real, eat good food, exercise, and make sure you stay humble, my friends.
You like
Beautiful.
water, my friends.
I like what? Body modifications? What'd you say? It's fine. Body modifications are not antonyms to eating good and staying fit.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go hop on the Discord, but yeah.
Discord.